What's going on, people? I hope we're well and living the dream. It's been a while since I've actually sat at my desk and done a video, so it's a little bit of a throwback for me. I hope we're all good. Yeah, cool, great. Those that have been subbed to me for a while would have probably picked up, or those that care enough to remember, if it means that much to you, one sec. That from on the 5th of April, I believe it was.
A few moments later.
Sorry, that on the 3rd of April, I had my K24 Frank build done. Those that don't know what a K24 Frank is, if you're new to the channel, I'll run through the very brief specs. And I've got my phone in my hand, not to be antisocial, but because I've got notes. Because I'm going to give you the pros and cons of the build after a year, or over a year now. And then I'm also going to give you my recommendations, knowing what I know now, what I would do in the future. The spec of my build is the K24A3 bottom block, the K20Z4 top block mated to it. The K20 head from my FN2 mated to it. Now with that, we had quite a few bolt-ons. So we had skunk two drop-in cams, no ultra ones or anything like that, just the standard drop-in cams that you can get for the K20. I get asked that question quite a lot. I had the 410cc RDX injectors as part of that, which is essential. The RRC INLET manifold, and a CPL big bore induction kit. The RRC is not bored or ported. The CPL exhaust manifold, CPL 421 manifold, which is a very rare item, mated to a custom 3-inch CATBACK exhaust, which sounds amazing. That exhaust setup together, as far as I know, it's myself and one other person that's got that exact setup from the exact fabricator, or had it. I know Mike has sold his, but the sound is glorious. It's ridiculous, genuinely. High volume, but a great tone nonetheless. And the FD2 oil pump kit as well. Now, with that setup, my car made to be specific, I think it's something like 282.72 horsepower and 210 foot-pounds of torque. I always ran up to 283. And it's been an awesome journey. So now at this point, I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm going to run through the pros, the cons, and then also my recommendations to anyone that is planning on doing a K24 build moving forward. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so pros. At this point, I'm going to be referring to my phone. The first one I've got down is reliability. Considering the level in which my power up was done or has been, considering the vast change in power and torque that my car has undertaken, I've not had one problem. In fact, it's actually righted a couple of wrongs. I say wrongs because they're not wrongs, they're actually characteristics of the K20, but yeah, from a reliability perspective, the only thing that went wrong during my whole time in having the K24 on, and to be fair, it would have happened even with the K20, is that my alternator went. That was it, which is a standard thing to go on these cars. So yeah, aside from that, that's it. And bearing in mind, I had my build done when my car was on 117K. I'm now on 125, so nearly 126, which is about 8,000 miles. And like I said, honestly, the car's flawless, absolutely flawless. I have nothing else to say about that. I don't need to talk it to death. It's just impressive, extremely impressive. So just to the next point I'm going to make, to add on to the reliability perspective, is oil burning or the lack thereof. I've got a picture of the oil in my car after I went on my track day, which I put in my group chat. But it's worth noting as well, I didn't actually mention this, I've got a baffled sun pin as well, and I did that when I did my track day last year in Snetterton. If you haven't seen that video, go and watch it. It's very entertaining. I don't like watching my own videos, but I'll watch that one back a couple of times. It's great. It's very strange. My car does not burn oil like it used to. I've only ever topped up once, and if I haven't even done it once, I haven't done it at all. And yes, I don't do the mileage that I used to, but when I had the K20, I used to have to top up something like every 6 to 7 weeks. It makes me question whether there's something wrong, but the car's been absolutely flawless, hasn't skipped a beat. Fuel consumption. Now this might come as a surprise to you, but obviously the K24, for those who haven't deduced it, the K24 means ultimately it's a 2.4 litre engine now, with a freer flowing head. And when doing normal driving, i.e. I'm not pressing it for a long stretch of time, etc., there's no difference in fuel consumption. I still get just over 300 miles to a tank, which I did in the K20 anyway. The most I ever got out of that car, regardless of which engine it was in or whichever state it was in, was 330 miles. And that was close to the fuel light being on, and that was literally like long journeys. Cruise control set to 70, not even 65 or anything like that, because I am impatient. I still need to get places. That was it. I feel like that's great. There's a flip side to that con, but I'll speak to you about that when we get to the cons. I'll raise it when we get to the cons. So yeah. So one thing that's kind of a pro and a con is that whilst pressing on, the car does burn more fuel. It's expected. You're running bigger injectors than standard, right? But it's not as much as you would expect. It's not like you've gone from like a 2 litre naturally aspirated engine with 4 cylinders to like a 4 litre V8 that drinks like crazy. It's not as crazy as you think, genuinely speaking. It is noticeable, yes, but not as much as you would expect. If I had to do this all over again, even with this car being like an everyday car, I don't need an everyday car because I don't use my car every day. I would still do this conversion big time. For sure, I'd probably just make some tweaks regarding noise. So yeah, the sound. There you go. Yeah! Those that have heard this car in person when I'm pressing on to it, which is a handful of people, it doesn't sound like a K20 anymore. That might be down to the exhaust, it might be down to the cams, it might be down to, I don't know, any and everything else. But honestly, it's just so angry and so raucous now. I have no other way of putting it. The way I would describe it, and I had one of my friends drove it last year, and he said it just feels like a meaty engine, like it's always ready to go. And it is like that. Before with the K20, you have to wring it out to the top of its neck to get to that peak power. And don't get me wrong, my peak power is still very much at the end of my rev range at about 8,000, but you don't need to wait for that to happen before. You don't need to wait till then for the fun to start, for the pull-in to happen and for everything else to just kick in. Honestly, it's a beast.
To do this, if I had to do this all over again, there's no way, and I literally mean there is no way that
I would go to a K20 again. It really is a beast. It's very, 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 I keep saying the word, but it's just raucous. Like, it's just angry. And even the sound, yeah. The power surprises many cars on the road. There are people on the road, and I've been stopped by a couple of them where they feel like the FN2 is slow. So they see I'm driving an FN2 and think it's standard, and it's not. And they're highly surprised. Including another FN2 owner. I don't know where you are. No, not FN2, a DC5 owner. I don't know who you are. You had a white DC5 and we were on the M11. I want to say the M11. Had a couple of pulls, and generally, as he drove past me, he was mouthing, "Is that standard?" I was like, "No." Thumbs up, and we just pulled on. We just went. Yeah, it's an awesome build. I am so proud of it. It turned out better than I thought. And there's not one time I've hopped in that car, regardless of the track day, regardless of all of the times that I may have blasted it around B roads and stuff like that, where I don't feel, or I feel like I'm bored of it, I'm tired of it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. The torque is the biggest and most impressive thing about the power. You hear that? Let me back out of it again so you can hear it. It's just so angry. So with a K20, even when you map it, you gain a load of power mid-range. With the K24, you gain like 40 to 50 more torque throughout the whole range. And I cannot express just how great that is. I mean, I've got onboard shots of when my car crosses from when VTEC kicks in. And honestly, like, it's just even more angry. I've gotten used to it, but whenever I listen to it in videos, especially like on the track day, the crossover on VTEC, it kind of sounds like the car's dripped out, and it's not. It's very angry. It's very angry. It's the torque pulls you from very low down. You don't need to change like 3 gears on the motorway to get past someone, even on the B road. You actually don't. You could just pull in 6th gear and you're going and you're going and you're going and you're going. And again, in typical FN2 fashion, you start picking up speed you don't feel like you're doing until you look at the speedo and you're like, that's my license. So yeah, the way the car feels, this is not just down to the power. So maybe this one is a little bit of a cop out for a pro. But the way the car feels, along with the chassis bracing and changes that I've made, and believe me, if you don't have good brakes, even with a K20, definitely get good brakes. If you've been neglecting your brakes, I don't know what you're waiting for, and I generally don't know what you're doing. Like, forget the good wheels, forget the coilovers, forget everything else, get good brakes, because you need them. Not because of the way you feel you may drive. You might be able to judge your braking distance. Can you judge others? Can you judge someone? Can you preempt someone brake testing you for no reason, even if you ain't tailgating? Anyway, I'm passionate about brakes, as you know. The way the car feels, I found the perfect power in my eyes to mate with this chassis. This, in my honest and humble and minute opinion on the internet, is how the K24, is how the FN2 should have came from factory. Not to say the K20 isn't good, because it is, and I thoroughly enjoyed my car for 4 years standard on standard power, right? I did. But with the K24 now, it does. I'm not saying it should have came out with the cams and the exhaust, no, obviously not. But with the boost of torque, that chassis needs it, and that chassis sings, and it just works with it. It's perfect. You cannot go wrong. You can't, not in my eyes. Yeah. And I'm not talking from a boosted perspective. Obviously, I am not boosted. I'm talking about from a naturally aspirated perspective. That's me. That's what I like. That's what I love about that car, you know. So, yeah. Now let's go into the cons, because I've only really and truly got two. Like I said before, it's like a backhanded compliment. When you're really gunning it, it does burn more fuel more than the K20 did. I will admit that. It's not something that puts me off pelting it, but if you're someone that eco drives your car, you won't notice a difference. Like, you generally won't. You'll just notice you can pull faster. Yes, it is a little bit more thirsty, but not by much, and it's to be expected, I'd say. I don't know what it's like on standard. Like, so those people that have done the K24 swap with the standard injectors, so no drop-in cams and whatnot, I'd be curious to find out what that's like. Mine is just a little bit more thirsty, but again, I wouldn't change it for the world. Now, the one thing that annoys me about the K24 swap, it's the fact that the engine bay becomes even tighter. So I'm going to show cinematics of how it sits in the engine bay, and you can notice the K24 block is 2 centimeters taller than the standard K20, and you wouldn't think that is that much, but in the engine bay like the FN2s, it does, because you know you got that scuttle pan where obviously like your water drainage and stuff, which sits on top of the engine, which makes it difficult anyway to like top up fuel. If you ever wanted to get to your spark plugs, I mean, you definitely have to undress it now. There's no way you're doing it any other way. It's just tight. It's very tight. I didn't think about this when I was trying to change my cam cover after getting an actual good one that wasn't chipped during the build. Again, all of that I've covered during the K24 build series, which I'll link the videos in the description. I cracked my windscreen. Look what I did trying to fit this flipping crusty, well, it's not crusty, but this cam cover. Look. We're thinking people do this on the driveway all the time. How could we not do it? That's why it just sits taller. We didn't think about it. Okay, so I thought of another con, and there's no better way for me to show you than actually being in the cabin. So one of the cons of having this build is that when you change your injectors for bigger ones, you pretty much lose accuracy in your MPGs, right? So I'm going to show you now. Just so you can put the dash on. Turn the head down. Right. So basically, as you can see here, it says I've been averaging 39 miles per gallon, right? And don't get me wrong, like I've not been driving it like Miss Daisy. I've actually been like pushing it a little bit just recently, because anytime I really drive this car right now, it's just pretty much an occasion. So yeah, and that's that. But as you can see, that's actually not even from a full tank. The 235 miles, sorry, it is from a full tank, but that's actually the mileage that I have been getting out of the tank. Like, just to be absolutely clear, the fuel gauge is still accurate. Like, it's not when you go to like 1000cc injectors and where it says your half tank you're actually empty. No, 410cc injectors, it's pretty much just like your MPGs goes out, but your fuel tank reader is still good. So yeah. And you know, I'll give overall thoughts before I talk about opinions, and at this point I'm not going to need my phone, so I'll put it to the side. If I were to do it all over again, even if I couldn't afford to do it to the spec that I did, I would do it all over again immediately. I wouldn't even have thought about bolt-ons. I wouldn't have thought about anything else to like the standard K20, because it just, until you've driven it, it's one of those things where you don't realize how good it is until you've tried it. And considering the fact that there's no minus, I don't need to worry about oil starvation. I've never needed to. I took it on a track day. I did a drive out in the peaks last year. I actually did a little private one again this year with some of my friends, and genuinely, like, the car did not miss one beat. And it's funny because they were filling up their K20s and I was just there like, I ain't burned nothing. Oil-wise, obviously. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, recommendations for those that want to do it. Know that if you want to build it for track and you've got a 3-inch exhaust, make sure that you get good resonators for it, because the sound is fantastic, but it's also a lot. And I mean a lot. When I'm pulling up to my neighborhood, even like, I want to say like a mile or just less than a mile from my house, people know where I am. And that's not with me pinning it, that's just with me driving, accelerating. I also send the tail tip out of the back. That helps vastly. If you don't, you're gonna have a migraine every time you drive, and that will definitely take away from the driving experience. It was beginning to, even when I first had the build done. So yeah, don't cheap out on your spec. It's one thing to get deals and bargains and buy things secondhand. I definitely did. My RRC was secondhand. My injectors were secondhand. My cams, though they were brand new and used, I bought secondhand. But I wouldn't cheap out on like getting replica injectors, for example, off eBay or things like that. Like I just wouldn't. If you're gonna go for a build like this, it's worth taking the time to put money aside or buy little bits, bit by bit, and then get the part that you want. I saved a lot on labor and ultimately mapping, doing it all in one shot. And I know not everyone can do that. I know not everyone can make that happen. But if you can, I would strongly, strongly, strongly advise you do it that way. Oh, the final and last recommendation I would give you is, if you're going for power, do the K24 Frank. I promise you, you will not regret it. Like the car is special. And another point I want to make, this is the last naturally aspirated Civic Type R they made. The K24 Frank not only keeps that character, but enhances it. It takes it, in my eyes, takes it to the maximum that it can be with an engine that Honda already supplied. And with that being said, that's it. I don't really have anything else to say. If you do have any questions, let me know. But I will also add, not that I find the questions annoying, but I will also add, I've pretty much done a video on any and every single aspect of this build. I covered cost, extremely transparent to the point where some people were like, you're brave. I've covered what you need in the cost video. I've also done a review on how it drives, although I am going to be doing another video in the very near future which will kind of cover that a little bit more. The build itself and the mapping. But again, I'm not shy of answering anyone's questions. I will always rely on knowledge as much as I possibly can, because people are gracious enough to do that for me. Who am I to deny other people of that? So with that being said, have a great time watching this video. I was gonna say have a great weekend, but I don't know if you guys are watching this or not on the weekend. It's not even a weekend for me right now. But no, take it easy, people, and until next time, peace. Yeah. it's just angry. It's just so angry. It's ready to go all the time.